Hello and welcome to today's art lesson. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a perfect one-point perspective cube utilizing a diagonal measuring line. Now we're going to introduce a few new terms for today. So one of them being the diagonal measuring line, the other one being the ground line. Now, just like before, when you do perspective, you got to establish the horizon line. For this particular exercise, I want to have a high horizon line because I want to have some extra space down here to kind of talk about the ground line a bit. So we're going to actually have to do some measuring this time as opposed to before when it's just kind of arbitrary. So I'm going to have my horizon line measure roughly about 2 inches from the top here. So I'm going to make a couple little score lines. So 2 inches from the top. I'm going to make at least 3 score lines so I have a good average. So I have a pretty good level horizon line there. One second, we have a little problem. This little thing's in the way. I don't like it. There we go, get it out of the way. There's always something that I don't account for these videos. So we're going to try to do that again. All right, great. Since I messed up, I'm going to do it again. And the problem is I have this giant marker that's making really thick, bold lines. So we're going to go down, not use this. We're going to go down 2.5 inches. And this time it should be good. You know what? We'll go 3. 1, 2, and 3. Really, the depth or where I place the horizon line doesn't matter. I just need it to be free and clear and relatively level. And instead of me adjusting over and over again, I'm not going to worry about that, and I'm just going to redraw my horizon line here. You can tell that I do not draw I don't draw perspective using Prismacolor markers often. Generally with pencil, or actually, believe it or not, dry erase markers. And the funny thing is, I drop my ruler numerous times when I give the demo in class. Okay, so we have a relatively level horizon line here. Now, just like before, we need to do what? You need a central vanishing point. Correct. Yes, we need a central vanishing point. So, typical central vanishing point placement is usually in the center. It can be anywhere, but for this exercise, I'm going to place it in the center. Or center-ish. Okay? So now we have our central vanishing point. What do we need to do now? Left vanishing point and the right vanishing point. You're right over there. You're correct. That's correct. We're going to need a special vanishing point left and a special vanishing point right. Now, for this exercise, to make it easy, we're going to have the distance the same. So, just like before, I'm probably going to have the distance be around 10 inches. So now you have your special vanishing point left and special vanishing point right. For simplicity, we're just probably going to do like vanishing point left and vanishing point right, or we can do just left and right vanishing point for simplicity. So I'm just going to label it L and R for left and right. Okay, so we have our central vanishing point, we have our horizon line, we have our left and right vanishing point. The new variables that we're going to introduce today is called the ground line. Now, the ground line is used to establish depth, and there's a whole list of things we talk about with that, but I'm just going to tell you what you should and should not do with regards to the ground line after I have a sip of water. Now, what you need to do with the ground line is equal to or less than the distance between your special vanishing point left and your central vanishing point, or the distance between your special vanishing point right and your central vanishing point. It can't be greater. It can't be greater than that, because that will disrupt the cone of vision. Now, we're going to talk about the cone of vision for a later exercise. It takes a little bit more setup, but just bear in mind when you do the ground line, it can't be longer than 10 inches. So for this exercise, I'm going to establish my ground line to be 9 inches. Get my marker here, right? I'm going to do a ground line here. I'm going to use the fine tip part. And I'm going to have my ground line be 9 inches from my horizon line here. So I'm going to make a bunch of dash lines here, little score marks. I like to do at least 3 to 5. Whoa! I tell you what I need. I need a better easel. Because this is good to like take out and like maybe do some sketches outside, but when you're doing it using this easel in the house, in the studio, right? It's just too wobbly. It wobbles everywhere. Don't like wobbly easels. Okay, so now we have established our ground line. Okay, and our ground line, as I said, can't be longer than the distance between the left vanishing point and central vanishing point, or the central vanishing point and left, or the right vanishing point. So either or, right? It can't be greater than that. It can be equal to or less than those distances. So as I stated, I have my ground line at roughly 9 inches. So this is 9 inches. This is my ground line. Or GL, right? That's the ground line. And we're going to use that to our advantage simply to start our, we're going to use it to start our first point perspective, 1 point perspective cube here. Now, remember in the first lecture or first discussion, when you do 1 point perspective, you start out by drawing the front plane of that object. So this square is facing the viewer. It's closest to the viewer. We're not doing the leading edge like 2 point perspective. We're doing 1 point perspective. The front plane's facing you. Boom! Like that. Okay? I need to find a marker that won't disrupt this. So I think we're going to use, I think we'll use blue. Okay, we'll use the blue one. I'm running out of colored markers here. And I got to find, there we go, we'll use this. Now, all we got to do is, since our ground line is in theory it's level. It's not off kilter, okay? So let's just assume that this is level so we can get our cube made here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw like a 3-inch cube, or 3-inch, the front face of our square here. So I'm basically doing a couple marks here. Right? So we got the distance of the front face of our cube, which is 3 inches. I looked like I was going to write 3.5 inches, but that's 3 inches, okay? And they're going to measure up 3 inches. Oops, I made a mistake. Okay. So using this angle thing right here, we're going to watch me overdraw here with the blue marker. So what you can't see right now is this like square thing that I'm using. It's hitting this and I'm not able to use it correctly. I actually need a smaller one and I don't know where it's at. But we're gonna push through this hiccup, okay? Ah. Close enough, right? Okay. Took a while, but we got there. So now, what we need is we need to establish lines of convergence. Okay? And how do we do that? We're activating the corners like before, just like in 1 point perspective. Not first point, second point, no, it's 1 point, sorry. And we're going to go towards our central vanishing point. So every corner of this square that we have made is going to go towards the central vanishing point. We're making the structure so that we can make a perfect cube in perspective. Okay? Okay. So now, this is where the cool stuff happens. It's not that cool. It's just really simple. It's a super simple thing to do. But you got to do a bunch of stuff beforehand, before you can even, you got to do stuff ahead or in the front before you can establish this nice cube formation here. I know that we can in theory kind of eyeball it, but this is a very sound way to make the perfect cube, depending on your ability to make straight lines precisely, okay? So now what we need to do is we need to draw the diagonal measuring line. Now, there's two ways you can do it. It doesn't matter which one. Now the diagonal measuring line is you're going to make a line from the bottom corner here, either to left or right, and it's going to go to the opposite vanishing point. Not your central vanishing point, but your left or your right or left vanishing point. So if you choose the bottom right corner here, it's going to go to the left vanishing point. Right? Or if you feel like it, doesn't matter, it's what you're comfortable with. If you choose the bottom left corner, you drag it all the way to the right side, that will work just as well. I'm going to need to scratch my drawing board with my straight edge. Right? So now, either or. I might be a little off on this one. So now, where they intersect, right? Where these lines intersect, on the bottom edge of your line, your line of convergence towards the back, that will determine the back side of your cube, and that would determine where the edge of the back, the back side, or the edge of that back side of that cube is showing. That was a giant loop that just kind of happened, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. I would say this is not an abnormal occurrence, but it usually happens all the time. So you're going to do a vertical line from where those lines intersect, like this. Right? Very good. And then, using that information, you're going to determine the rest of your form here. So notice that my left and right were pretty close. I think I might be a little bit off here, but either or is fine. I typically go across the central vanishing point. I go the long way to this side because I think it yields a more stable cube. But you can also do this side. It doesn't matter. You're still going to use that information. So now that you've established the vertical side of that cube, you need to finish off and use the rest of that information to finish off your cube. Make sure that when you do your horizontal lines, it's level. And I'm off a little bit, but that's fine. At least it feels off. It's probably because I didn't have a straight up and down line here. So this is the way you draw your cube perfectly. Now it's all dependent on whether you're along with your ability to create straight up and down lines. I probably should have used, I don't know where it's at, but I probably should have used my straight edge or the T-square. Yeah, I should have used my T-square to make these straight up and down lines instead of freehanding it. So that is how you make your cube. That's how you make a perfect cube. Using a diagonal measuring line. So why don't you try and see if you can make a perfect cube using the ground line and a diagonal measuring line. All right, well, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate your time. Don't forget to subscribe and like my channel and or Facebook feed. Thank you. Facebook page. It's not a feed. Is it a feed? It's a page. No, it's a page, right? Anyways, I hope you have a wonderful day. I appreciate your time.